In 2016, a man named Daniel received news most people dream of. He had inherited a small fortune from a distant relative. Our $1.8 million landed in his account overnight. He cried, he laughed, he shook with excitement. But deep inside, something strange began to happen. In the first few months, Daniel barely touched the money. He felt guilty just looking at the balance. Every purchase felt wrong. And when he finally decided to invest, he picked a reckless venture and lost more than half in 6 months. 2 years later, Daniel was in debt. No inheritance left, just shame. Story sounds like a fluke, bad luck, a misstep. But it's disturbingly common. In behavioral psychology, there's a term for it: self-sabotage through cognitive dissonance. When your conscious mind says it wants something, but your unconscious believes it's unsafe. Say you want wealth, but deep down a part of you doesn't believe it belongs to you. That's where the conflict begins. Silent, invisible, but real. In this video, we'll expose the hidden side of money, the fear of wealth you don't even know you have. We'll explore how invisible beliefs shape your decisions, even when you think you're doing everything right. This isn't about financial illiteracy. It's about an emotional war inside your mind, between what you desire and what you've been conditioned to accept. If you've ever felt like you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, if you freeze up when things start going well, if abundance makes you strangely anxious, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because here at CashPhrenia, we reveal the psychological patterns that sabotage your financial life and give you the tools to rewire your mind before it turns against your goals. Imagine this. Someone who's spent their entire life trying to make it finally begins to succeed. The salary increases. The debts are gone. There's a savings account, a safety net, real breathing room. But then, that same person starts overspending, takes irrational financial risks, procrastinates big decisions, or worse, begins to stall. What felt like freedom slowly turns into fear, and abundance becomes a threat. This is not rare. It's not just poor financial planning, it's something deeper, something quieter, something psychological. We're talking about a form of invisible self-sabotage, the fear of wealth. It sounds ridiculous at first. Who would be afraid of being rich? But this fear rarely shows up as fear. It hides behind overthinking, behind perfectionism, behind procrastination and emotional burnout. At its core lies a powerful conflict. The conscious mind wants to grow, but the subconscious fears what success might bring. This is called cognitive dissonance, psychological tension that arises when your core beliefs contradict your actions or desires. You can read all the financial books, you can understand strategy, budgeting, investing, but if deep down you believe money is dangerous, selfish, or corrupt, you'll sabotage every attempt to grow. The fear of wealth isn't rational, it's emotional. It's inherited from childhood, from culture, from religion, from stories about what good people do with money. In this video, we're going to break it all down. We'll examine the root of this fear. We'll follow the emotional journey of someone who lived through it. And we'll identify the 3 stages where the mind starts to panic: the rise, the fall, and the invisible psychological error that fuels the cycle. Because the real barrier isn't out there, it's in the scripts you've internalized since you were a child. Until you uncover them, they'll keep controlling your life. Isabella grew up in a modest neighborhood in the north end of the city. Daughter of a nurse assistant and a construction worker, she learned early on to value what she had. Nothing was guaranteed. Food on the table depended on overtime. New clothes were a December luxury. But there was love, there was dignity, and there was a lesson always in the air. Don't complain, work hard, be grateful. And Isabella learned well. She was disciplined, focused, relentless. The first in her family to go to college, the first to land an internship at a major company, and eventually the first to break 5 figures on a paycheck. Felt like the beginning of a new life. The day she signed the contract for her first apartment, she cried in the elevator alone, not from sadness, but from disbelief. She had made it, and for a while everything was smooth. Isabella started traveling. She went to places she had only seen in magazines. She helped her parents, bought gifts without thinking twice. For the first time, she felt light, proud. But then, the signs started to show. The lightness turned to anxiety. She began checking her bank statements obsessively. Felt guilt when buying anything for herself, even when it was well within budget. She began telling herself she was spending too much, even though she was financially stable. And slowly, her behavior changed. She started turning down big opportunities with vague excuses. I'm not ready. That's not for me. Better to play it safe. The turning point came when she was offered a leadership position. With a 40% salary increase, Isabella hesitated, said no, said she needed more time. But why? The answer wasn't logical, it was emotional. She had risen faster than her mind could process. In psychology, this is known as identity dissonance. When your external success outpaces your internal self-image. Isabella had learned how to survive, how to fight, but she had never learned how to receive, how to shine, how to feel at peace with abundance. Inside her, a quiet voice born in childhood whispered, "Rich people are born rich. People like us have to struggle forever. If it feels too easy, something's wrong." So when her new reality contradicted her old beliefs, her brain hit the brakes. Not consciously, but silently, almost invisibly. She began sabotaging her own progress. Not because she feared failure, but because she feared success. Because success meant exposure, responsibility, and, in her subconscious, betrayal of her roots, her past, her community. This is a very real psychological fear, called fear of social exclusion. The human mind is wired to belong. And when you rise above what your environment considers normal, you risk losing connection. Isabella didn't want to feel different from her family. She didn't want to be told she had changed. She didn't want to feel arrogant. So she unconsciously slowed herself down, stayed where it felt safe, did what she already knew, and convinced herself that she didn't need more. Not more money, more permission. Meanwhile, her peers, often less talented but more emotionally free, advanced, took risks, climbed, and Isabella, she stalled. As if there were a ceiling over her head, but it wasn't made of glass, it was made of beliefs. Isabella didn't notice the beginning of the fall. Like it does for most of us, it started quietly. First came the stagnation. She declined larger projects to avoid being seen. Then came the delays, missed deadlines. Her productivity slipped, her spark was gone. She kept the same polite smile and told everyone, "I'm fine, just tired." But she wasn't fine. Her mind, once expansive, curious, full of drive, had switched into survival mode. She spent more energy managing internal chaos than building her future. When the company's HR announced staff cuts, Isabella took a deep breath and secretly hoped she'd be let go. Yes, she hoped for it. She was looking for an external excuse to match what she already felt inside, that she didn't belong anymore. Psychologists call it imposter syndrome. The belief that your success is a mistake. It's only a matter of time before you're exposed. And then it happened. Isabella was laid off. Severance was generous. But instead of fear or sadness, she felt relief. Not because she had money saved, because she no longer had to pretend she was thriving. In the months that followed, the spiral deepened. She stopped talking to friends who were doing well, declined invitations, stopped investing, started shopping compulsively for things she didn't need, quick purchases, followed by long hours of guilt. She watched her savings shrink, but couldn't stop. It was like something inside her was whispering, "Go back to where you belong. You're not supposed to be up here." And she listened. This is a sophisticated form of psychological regression. When faced with inner tension, the mind returns to what feels familiar. Even if that familiar is a lesser version of yourself, the brain, under stress, prefers the known pain over the unknown freedom, prefers survival mode over expansion, comfort in chaos over discomfort in abundance. Isabella began to reenact old patterns. She accepted underpaid freelance gigs, turned down new opportunities, claiming it wasn't the right time. And inside, she felt she was being true to herself. But that wasn't authenticity, that was conditioning. The version of herself built by years of unconscious beliefs about what was right, humble, and realistic. Each backward step gave her a strange sense of comfort, but also an emptiness. She mistook relief for peace, guilt for humility, fear for maturity. Her big mistake. Believing that the discomfort of abundance was a sign to retreat, when it was actually proof she was breaking through a barrier. She had never learned how to hold abundance, only how to hold stress. It's like someone who's been thirsty in the desert their whole life and finally finds water, but is too afraid to drink it. Isabella didn't fail financially. She collapsed emotionally. Her fall had nothing to do with her intelligence or work ethic. It had everything to do with an inner conflict she never addressed. The tension between the woman she became and the story she still believed about who she was, till that internal image was updated. Every step forward would trigger a step back. Isabella thought the problem was money, or her job, or maybe the pressure. But it wasn't any of that. The real issue was buried much deeper and far harder to see in the image she held of herself. More specifically, in the emotional identity she had constructed since childhood. From a young age, Isabella had been praised for being hardworking, for being humble, for not complaining, for not being a burden. She grew up associating love with effort, recognition with struggle, belonging with sacrifice. And that's where the psychological error was hiding. She had learned how to resist, but never how to receive. Her brain had been trained for crisis, for solving, fixing, surviving, but not for peace, not for stability, not for ease. This is more common than most people realize. In behavioral psychology, we call this the identity consistency bias. It means that your mind seeks experiences that confirm who you believe you are. even if those experiences are painful. If you grew up believing money equals suffering, you may become financially successful, but subconsciously recreate suffering through guilt, stress, chaos, or loss. You'll spend it recklessly, burn out at work, or block opportunities that seem too good. It's not because you're weak, but because your identity doesn't know how to live in abundance. Isabella wasn't afraid of failing. She was afraid of sustaining success. Because to do that, she'd have to become someone new. Not the struggling one, not the resilient one, it's not the martyr. She'd have to become the woman who receives, who thrives, who leads. And that felt like betrayal. It's like leaving something or someone behind. This is a very real form of inner conflict. The dissonance between belonging and expansion. You want to grow, but not stand out. You want more, but don't want people to think you've changed. You want freedom, but fear losing connection. So you shrink, quietly, strategically, and that's the true error. Not realizing that the real enemy isn't outside, it's inside, in the beliefs you never chose, but learned to obey. Isabella believed that to be worthy of love, she had to struggle. That success without sacrifice was selfish. That lightness meant irresponsibility. Until she confronted those beliefs, she would stay stuck in a pattern of advance and retreat, growth and guilt, abundance and punishment. She didn't need more books, more spreadsheets, more advice. She needed something no one had taught her, that it's safe to expand, that you don't have to shrink to be loved, that success doesn't isolate, it liberates. Her mistake wasn't making money. It was never learning to see herself as someone who could keep it. Isabella didn't fail. She simply reached a place most people never get to. She won the external game, but lost to the internal patterns still running the show. And that teaches us something critical. The real challenge of prosperity isn't financial, it's mental. Most people think they need more money, but what they truly need is emotional permission to have money. Because what we call fear of success is really fear of what success demands. Responsibility, visibility, boundaries. Transformation, wealth, for many, is not comfortable. It's threatening, because it forces you to redefine who you are. And that's why so many people unconsciously sabotage their own growth. They turn down opportunities, they stall, they procrastinate, not because they're lazy, but because they've been conditioned to only feel safe and struggle. So here's the most important takeaway. You don't need to struggle to deserve. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to carry your family's burden to feel worthy. You don't have to suffer in order to be taken seriously. You can prosper with ease. You can receive without guilt. You can grow without self-sabotage. But that requires inner work, not financial planning. It's emotional reprogramming. Here are 3 places to start. 1. Notice how you react to abundance. What do you feel when money flows easily? When you're praised? When someone offers you something big? Those reactions are clues to your unconscious beliefs. 2. Confront inherited phrases. Write down everything you remember hearing about wealth, success, and rich people. Things like, money changers people. Don't dream too big. People like us don't do that. Now ask, are these true or just inherited limitations? 3. Redefine your identity. See yourself as someone who can hold abundance without guilt. Repeat it, visualize it, daily. Because if you don't upgrade your internal identity, you'll keep rejecting everything that contradicts it. Isabella didn't change her life by budgeting harder. She changed it by challenging what she believed she deserved. Because real transformation doesn't begin with your bank account. It begins with how you see yourself. Now that you've seen all of this, pause for a second. Take a breath and be honest with yourself.
What's the invisible ceiling in your life?
What's the story, the belief, the sentence you heard so many times that you started living like it was truth? That's not for people like me. Someday I'll get there. Don't get greedy. Or even, if I grow too much, I'll lose who I am. These phrases shape your decisions. Even when you're not aware. Even when things seem to be going well. That's why the first step to breaking the pattern is naming it. Bringing it into the light. Speaking what was never said. So here's my invitation to you. Share in the comments. What is one belief about money that you inherited and now realize is holding you back? By writing it down, you do something powerful. You interrupt the silence that keeps that belief alive. You reclaim your story, and you might help someone else realize they're not alone. Here at CashPhrenia, that's what we're about. Exposing the psychological codes behind financial behavior. Questioning what you were taught to accept. Rewiring your mind so your goals stop working against your conditioning. So if this video spoke to something deep inside you, if you felt that good discomfort that comes from facing an invisible truth, consider subscribing. Not because we have magic formulas, but because we're building something rare here. Emotional freedom to prosper. And all freedom begins this way. The question. With a shift. With a new thought that changes the direction of everything. See you in the next episode.